What's up, everyone? My name is Sam. Thanks so much for joining Sanjana Fitness's YouTube yoga channel. Today's practice will be centered on finding peace within yourself. This is a beginner's level hatha yoga practice, and we'll be using the mantra, peace begins within me. So when you're ready, come to the yoga mat. Feel free to bring a pillow, blocks or props, a bolster or a blanket. This is going to be a really slow flow today, nice and easy, so get ready to get comfortable, and I'll meet you on your back, centered in your mat. Okay, so we're coming to the mat on our backs. Feel free to grab a pillow for under your head or neck. We're just going to open the practice slowly in Shavasana or any other comfortable resting pose that feels right for you. If you want to open the practice in reclined bound angle pose, feel free to do so. Just make it nice and gentle, maybe by putting blocks under your knees or a pillow or bolster under your low back. And if you want to open with the blanket on your lap, feel free to do so. We're settling in on this concept of peace, finding strength in stillness, maybe incorporating a mantra like peace begins within me. So as always, we're going to drop in, start connecting with the breath. Start noticing how you feel in the physical body, the intellectual body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body, whatever that means to you. And for this practice, I would just challenge you to slow down even more, move even more mindfully, and really check in and understand what peace looks like for you. Maybe what your obstacles are in getting there. As you start to get a sense for that and start creating this safe space for yourself, you might also start to quiet the mind. Let your thoughts pass like clouds in the sky, just observing without judgment, and letting go of everything that you don't need right here, right now. Create this space for yourself and allow yourself just to be. Not distracted by memories or worries about the future or future planning. Just letting go of all of that, seeking peace, seeking stillness. Notice the rhythm and sound of your breath. Stay in this opening posture as long as it takes for you to find stillness in the mind. But feel free to place the hands on the body if you need to do that. Relax your body into the support of your mat and the earth. When you found that stillness and that quiet, try to hang on to that or incorporate it throughout the practice. Remember that as your instructor, my verbal cues are merely suggestions, and you can take this practice in any direction that calls to you. Just be curious in movement and listen to your body. If you're ready to do so, you can gently bat the eyes open or keep them closed at any point if it feels right. And I'm going to begin incorporating movement just by bending into my knees and tucking my knees into my chest, wrapping my arms around them and maybe just rocking gently side to side. Just noticing, being curious in the body, connecting to your own embrace. Maybe finding stillness there or rocking gently side to side, whatever calls to you. Next time you come back through center, bring your fingers, your hands to the front of the knees or pointing downward on the shins, and we're just going to let the weight of gravity pull the feet down toward the mat. So just letting your feet hang here. Friction of your hands against the knees, just supporting the weight of your legs. And from here, we'll just start to draw circles with the knees, pulling the knees and thighs in toward the chest, pressing them away, bringing them back toward one another, etc. And I usually just keep the big toes touching for this, but feel free to move in any direction that feels organic to you. Changing the direction of those circles maybe. We're just checking in with both of the hips, lubricating those joints, noticing what we feel in the connected tissues, just checking in with the body. When you feel good about that, you can bring your hands to the backs of the thighs or behind the knees. I'm like extended, not fully through the knees, but feet toward the ceiling, just so I can see my feet here. We're just gonna draw circles with the feet, kind of move in any range of motion that feels good. Try to press through all the toes. Explore the full range of motion through the toes, through the foot, through the ankles. And again, we're just checking in here. You can also do this with the knees bent if you want to. I just like to observe with my eyes also. Take your time here. Spend as much time as you need in any of these warm-up stretches. When you feel good in the feet and ankles, I'm going to come into happy baby, just bringing my hands to the outside edges of the feet, opening up extending through the knees and pulling the knees down toward the armpit chest. I like to put my palms on the bottoms of my feet here just to feel that connection. Maybe rock gently side to side or find stillness. You can also hook the index finger and middle finger around the big toe. Find like a more passive, less pulling version of this. And if the feet are not accessible to you at all, you can just bring your hands to the backs of the thighs or backs of the knees and gently pull the knees down toward the armpits or toward the mat. So take your time there in Happy Baby or in any of the warm-up stretches, poses that we've moved through. Remembering your mantra, peace begins within me, and letting go of everything else. When you're ready, you can roll up to sitting any way that you want to get there. Take your time and enjoy the journey. I'm going to turn to face you, but you can stay seated where you are. Feel free to grab a pillow for under your hips if it feels good. We're going to settle into a simple cross-legged seat. Just make yourself comfortable here. And you can either open up the palms, rest them on the feet or ankles, or you can hold the belly. Maybe one hand on your heart. Whatever feels right to you. We're going to once again just settle into this pose. Connecting with the present. Quieting the mind. And giving ourselves space to let go of anything that we don't need right now. Check in with your spinal alignment and the quality of your breath. Make sure you're nice and open through the chest. Shoulders back. Nice full inhales and complete exhales. Remember, whenever you lose focus during your practice, just come back to the sound of the breath. That sound might help you notice your oneness with nature. It sounds a lot to me like waves sometimes. It might also remind you of that deeper connection to everyone and everything. To a universal vibration. If you have your eyes closed, you can gently bat them open, or you can keep them closed if you want. And we're just going to start stretching a little bit through the neck, just by dropping the chin to the chest, and then gently rocking the left ear over the left shoulder, and rolling the right ear over the right shoulder, keeping the chin close to the chest and the spine nice and long. Noticing what you feel here, letting go of any tension or stress that you're storing there. You don't need that. Go ahead and let that go. And let your physical sensations, particularly in the back of the neck, dictate your movement here. So slow it down as much as you need. Feel free to spend time in one place if you feel it's helping you release tension or stretch through the neck. And don't forget just to be curious. Try to put your mind's eye right in the middle of those sensations and articulate to yourself what you feel and where. And just remember, we're observing without judgment. Just acknowledging where you are in your body today and making peace with that. Take your time here, spend as much time in this movement as you want. When you feel good about it, you can come back through center, maybe find stillness again in that same comfortable cross-legged seat, checking in with the spinal alignment and the breath. I'm going to bring my palms together at the heart. I'm going to point my fingertips toward you. Just extend through the elbows, pulling the palms away from the body. We're going to continue this stretch through the back of the neck and the upper back with a self-embrace. So we're going to open the palms as wide as we can away from each other. Maybe bringing the palms behind you, opening up through the chest. Connecting with the breath, noticing your range. And then we'll bring the palms toward one another, slowly, gently, mindfully. Let's bring the right palm underneath the left as they cross each other. And bring your fingertips to the upper back. Wherever they land, they land. And maybe walk the fingertips in toward one another in the center of your back. So just feeling that nice warm embrace. We're going to lift the elbows on our next inhale. And on our next exhale, we'll slowly curl inward, bringing the elbows in toward the low ribs, relaxing through the head, the neck, the shoulders. Taking a few quiet moments just to turn inward, to observe and enjoy the space that you've created for yourself. Reconnect with the breath. Root down through the sits bones, planting the tailbone. And we'll slowly curl back up to that seated posture, articulating through each and every vertebra, and all the way up to that long spine. And we'll gently unravel the arms, opening them up, bringing the palms away from one another, all the way maybe behind you. Just notice your range here. When you're ready, we'll bring the palms back toward one another to do the same thing on the second side. So moving really slowly, mindful of the spine and the breath. We'll bring the left palm underneath this time, both palms to the upper shoulders or upper back, and then walking the fingertips in toward one another. On your next big inhale, lift the elbows, get really long. And on your exhale, curl inward once again, relaxing through the head, the neck, the shoulders. Enjoying the fullness of your breath and this bubble of peace that you've created for yourself. not just that, but the peace that you're emulating outward also. Stay rooted down through the sits bones. Quiet the mind. When you're ready, plant the sits bones, plant the tailbone. Slowly curl back up to that seated posture, opening up the arms one more time. Checking in with that range and bringing it back together in front of you. Maybe take a second in that comfortable seated posture just to notice how you feel. When you're ready, we'll come forward onto all fours. Coming into our tabletop position in the center of the mat. Getting ready for a little cat-cow. If you know what to do here, feel free to take it away. You don't need my cues, but knees go under the hips, palms planted under the shoulders, fully extended through the feet and ankles. Nice long spine. On your inhale, you can drop the belly, drop the low ribs, tilt the pelvis, lift the gaze, roll the shoulders back. And on your exhale, curling inward, pressing down through the palms, through the knees, through the tops of the feet. Sync up with your own breath. Move at your own pace. Feel free to incorporate any other easy organic movement here, maybe by bending into the elbows, pressing through the spine, the ribs, just noticing what you feel. Just take your time there, spend as long as you want in that exploration. When you're ready, from that tabletop position, we'll curl the toes under, extend through the knees, and lift the hips up high and back for a downward dog. Remember that your heels do not need to touch the ground. Feel free to bend into the knees as much as you need to. It's more important that you have that flat back than full extension at the knees. Take your time here. Feel free to pedal through the feet if it feels good, or just find stillness. Maybe shake out the hair, relax through the head and neck. And when you're ready, we're going to walk that tightrope down the midline of the mat to come into a standing forward fold. So take your time getting there. Coming into that nice standing forward fold. Just going to again relax through the head, the neck, the shoulders. Maybe find a gentle sway left to right. You can clasp opposite elbows. Let your hands gently brush across your mat. You can also find stillness here. I like to slide my palms under the feet just to feel that connection, that complete circuit of energy. So find any variation here that feels right for you. Remembering your mantra. And spending as much time here as you need. Really work to quiet the mind here. Stay connected with the breath. If your hands are under the feet, go ahead and release those. Maybe just bringing fingertips to the mat in front. From here, we're going to root down through the heels, make sure the feet are planted. You're pressing through all 10 toes. You feel that connection to the mat. Nice and grounded, very stable. So from here, we're going to slowly drag the fingertips across or upward across the front edge of the body. Coming all the way up to standing, but moving very mindfully. Noticing what you feel and where as you move, appreciating the journey. Coming so slowly all the way up to standing. Finally rolling the shoulders back, extending through the neck, and maybe bringing palms together at the heart. You can also take a mudra just by connecting the index finger and thumb, letting the arms relax next to you, the other fingers radiating away from the body. So we're going to take a moment here just to find stillness. So check in. Are you able to do that? And if not, what's stopping you? What can you let go of while you're on the mat? Listen to the sound of your breath to recenter. Checking in with the quality of breath. Quieting the mind. Let's release the hands to the sides, maybe wiggling through the fingers a bit. We're going to gently, slightly bend into the knees. Bring the hands forward like you're scooping up water or a big cloud. And bring the hands all the way up and overhead. Palms together. We'll lower those to the heart space. And let's continue all the way down back into that forward fold. Letting the hands fall back to the mat. Moving like water. We're going to slowly root down through the heels. Let's lift halfway this time, bringing the palms to the fronts of the thighs. Finding that nice flat back. Checking in with that engagement, noticing what you feel and where. Releasing the hands once again all the way back down to the mat, moving slowly, like the wind, like the elements. We'll root down through the heels one more time. Curling slowly all the way back up to Tadasana, mountain pose. Opening up through the shoulders, bringing palms up and overhead, together, then bending the elbows and bringing the palms to the heart space. Good, tuck the chin. We'll take one cycle of breath. Bend into the knees, release the palms, scoop up that water or cloud, palms up and overhead. This time slice it all the way down the middle, releasing the hands back to the mat. We'll do one more half lift, slowly dragging the fingertips along the front edge of the body. Bringing the hands to the tops of the thighs, or maybe just sending them back behind you, checking in with that flat back. And then this time we'll release the hands all the way to the mat. We're going to plant the sole of the right foot. I just moved mine up about 3 or 4 inches in front of the left foot just to adjust the legs. We're going to send that left foot back and then lower that left knee, just coming into this low lunge. So you can uncurl the toes on the left side. And we'll just press down into this low lunge for a bit, noticing what you feel in the hips. Taking our time here to reconnect with the breath. Notice what you feel and where. And so I stepped my right foot forward proactively a few inches before we came into this lunge. If you didn't do that, you might want to walk the left knee back a little further at this point. We're going to extend fully through that right knee, sending the hips back and sending the right toes up toward the ceiling to come into a runner stretch. Checking in with your spinal alignment. Checking in with the breath. Fingertips can be in line with that right heel, or bring them a little closer to the body if you need to, or further away from the body if you need to. And as always, if you'd like a little deeper engagement here, feel free to pull that right heel in toward the hip. Just notice what you feel. When you feel good about it, bend into that right knee, rolling back onto the sole of that right foot, coming back into that low lunge. Let's curl the left toes under, lift that left knee off the mat, send the right foot back for plank. You can slowly lower to the belly here, or to upward facing dog, whatever's in your practice. Let's press up to cobra or upward facing dog. Melt it back down. We'll press up for plank. Come back into your downward dog. We're just going to set up for that low lunge on the second side. So you can walk that left foot up to be framed by your hands. Walk that right foot back and lower that right knee to the mat. Uncurling the right foot. Setting up for your low lunge. So nice and long through the spine, checking in with the breath. Nice gentle stretch here. Remember, you are in control. It's your practice. So find peace in that. Let go of anything that's not serving you here. Take as much time as you want in this pose. When you're ready, we'll extend through that left knee, rolling up onto the left heel, left toes come up toward the ceiling. Check in if you need to move that right knee back. Feel free to adjust. Just come back to that low lunge before you do. Check in with the hand placement. And check in with that hamstring engagement by pulling that left heel in toward the left hip if it feels right for you and your body today. Take your time here. Remember your mantra. Peace begins within me. I find strength in stillness or something related. When you feel satisfied, we can come out of this pose. You can bend into that left knee. We're actually just going to come into a seated forward fold. So you can bring your hands inside of that left leg, come back to all fours, or get there however you want to get there. We are winding down the practice, so keep in mind your goals for today's practice and your journey toward peace. And we're going to come into this really comforting pose, the seated forward fold. Feel free to grab a pillow or blanket if you want to hold that here, or whatever you want to do. Make the practice your own. So to get into that pose, we're going to send the palms up and overhead facing one another. We're going to get really long through the spine. We're going to take up a lot of space and then hinge at the hips, imagining the hands going beyond the feet. And even if they don't, that's okay. They can land and just stay open next to the shins or whatever is calling to you today. Feel free to cuddle your blanket or put your head on a pillow. Take some time just to enjoy this space you've created for yourself. Take your time in this pose. Don't be afraid to be curious in the body. Right now I'm connecting my hands with my toes just to feel the warmth again, hands to feet. Take as much time as you need, finding stillness and peace in this pose. Stay here as long as it feels good. And I encourage you to practice this pose outside of your regular practice, just throughout the day if you get the opportunity. It's so comforting and so good for the posterior chain, the back body. When you're ready to come out, we'll root down once again through the sits bones, planting the tailbone to slowly curl up. Through the lumbar spine, through the thoracic spine, and eventually through the cervical spine. We're going to move to do our cool down poses on our back. We're going to close with the same kind of poses that we warmed up with. But in that transition, we're going to do a little boat practice if you're feeling it. So get centered on your mat, adjust yourself if you're not already. We can begin boat practice just by bringing the hands to the backs of the thighs and lifting the heels off of the ground. If you're wobbly here, just stay here, practice a bit. If you feel great about this, you can open up the palms on either side of the knees. If you fall out of it, that's okay. Just come right back into it or try another version. And if you feel really confident here, you can try extending through the legs and balancing on the sits bones, with palms open toward the ceiling. It's really hard for me to talk and do this. This is a challenging pose. So anyway, feel playful. Don't lose your peace. It's okay to try and fail. That's part of the practice. And when you've had enough, I'll meet you on your back once again. Get there however you get there. Don't forget to enjoy the journey. Maybe bringing that pillow under your head or neck if it feels right. And like I said, we're going to cool down with what we warmed up with. So we're going to do happy baby. We're going to start with a little knees to chest. So if you remember what we did in the warm-up, feel free to do any of those poses. If your body's asking you for something else here, this is the time to give it what it needs. Be curious, listen to your body. Maybe notice if anything feels different in the cool down than it did in the warm up. Just to observe, just to notice. Check in once again with that discipline of peace, with your ability to quiet the mind, to quiet the chitta vritti or mind chatter that distracts us from the current moment, the here and now. So I challenge you to incorporate that discipline throughout not just your practice, but your week. Practicing that ability to quiet the mind when you need to. Practicing that ability just to stay mindful, to allow yourself to let go of what you can't control and what's not serving you. Also challenge you to create these bubbles of peace and self-care, not just here on your mat, but throughout your day and your week. When you feel satisfied with any of the final poses that you're going through or practicing, feel free to come into reclined bound angle pose, maybe with a pillow under the low back, or by extending through the legs, coming into Shavasana, and final resting pose, opening up the palms toward the ceiling. And we'll spend a few quiet moments here, but if you're watching this video, I encourage you to spend more time in these final resting poses. Best time, I think, to practice meditation is right after yoga. So the body is ready, and so is the mind. So take your time here just to turn inward and find stillness. And just to enjoy these last quiet moments in this space that you've created for yourself. Before we close this practice today, I want to do a quick land acknowledgement, just recognizing that I am guiding this class from former Monongahela, Osage, and Erie lands. We recognize and honor the sacrifices of the indigenous people that inhabited these lands before us, and we recognize that their sacrifices are ongoing, that their struggle for liberation is connected to all of ours, and that there are many opportunities for us to support them today. Remember, this is your practice, so make it your own. I'm going to bring my palms together to rest gently at the third eye or the space between the eyebrows. Feel free to join me there, only if it feels right for you. Before we close the practice, I also want to recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice that comes from the subcontinent of India and Indian culture. So we recognize, honor, and are grateful for that cultural heritage. We also recognize that yoga functions in many ways for many peoples of the world today, including as a community. I thank you so much for being part of my community today. I hope you got something you needed here today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.